Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today's review is at Handsworth Golf Club in North Birmingham. Now Handsworth Golf Club opted for a gold, silver and bronze tee set. We were playing off the silver tees, and this is the equivalent of a sort of traditional yellow tees, and this will play a little over 6,100 yards and plays as a par 70. As normal, we'll be getting into the review, so this will be based on 5 main factors, and then after that we'll get into each of the 18 holes and just provide a little bit of strategy around each of the holes. So onto the general feel and facility. I've given this a score of 4 out of 5. Nice pro shop, the staff are really friendly that I came across. There's a really good feel around sort of the club generally, really well equipped practice area. They do have a driving range, it is quite short, but it does also look like it's one of those that you will have to supply your own balls to. For the course layout, I'm going to give this a score of 5 out of 5. I really liked the layout. It's a really mature parkland style course. There's lots of elevation changes, which does make the course that bit more interesting. Lots of wood, lots of use of water, and each of the holes did feel differently, even if some of the yardages played exactly the same. Some really good risk and reward holes too, and you certainly do have to plot your way around this course. For the course difficulty, I've given this a score of 4 out of 5. The course itself was a really good test and will suit all levels of golfer. The reason for the 4 was actually mainly to do with the greens, and actually the greens were actually really quick, and even though this was played towards the early start of October, they were super quick, especially when you were putting downhill. I was partnered up with 2 lads on the day who had actually played the course before, and that really did help. And there's a number of long par 4s to this course, so it will suit a slightly longer hitter than a shorter hitter. For the course condition, I am going to give this a score of 2 out of 5. Overall, the course wasn't in particularly great condition. A lot of the fairways had looked like they'd taken quite a bit of beating over the summer. Other things worth mentioning here is the amount of acorns and the amount of bird poo that is around the course. You'll see on quite a few of the holes a bit later on just the level of wildlife on this course. Both of these did have a sort of negative impact, so if you are going to play this course, I probably would recommend playing this early summer just to try and avoid the acorns. And finally, on to the value. I would give this a score of 4 out of 5. I paid £32 for the round on a sort of Saturday afternoon. This was a deal on Golf Now. I certainly wasn't upset with paying that amount, and if the condition of the course was a little bit better, I would be happy to pay more. Just like I said, maybe worth just playing this towards the early summer rather than towards the end of autumn. So this will give Handsworth Golf Club a score of 19 out of 25. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please feel to make any comments as well. Always really appreciate any feedback. Feel free to check out any of my other reviews, mainly around courses in the Midlands, Cornwall and Wales. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll get into each of the 18 holes now and just provide a little bit of strategy about how to play these for most golfers. Hole 1, and a nice opening hole here, a short length par 4 that doglegs slightly to the right. The main end off the tees just to get yourself into play. There's 2 well positioned bunkers at the turn, so your options are you either lay up short of those 2 bunkers or try to get past them. For the shorter option, a shot between somewhere around 180 yards to 220 yards will get you in between both of the 2 bunkers, but you will want to favour the left hand side for the best angle into the green. To make it past the turn, you're going to need to cover at least 240 yards and playing into a narrow fairway. For your approach to the green, I would recommend playing for the heart of the green, the 2 bunkers at the front of this green, and there's also a bunker about 20 yards short right of this green too. The miss to this green is actually either short or long, so depending on where the pin is, you may wish to alter the yardage, either playing to the front if the pin's at the front or playing long if the pin's at the back. This green is quite a generous size and is shaped like an upturned down saucer, so you can expect some movement, especially if you are putting from the edges of the green. Hole 2, and another shortish par 4, another shot that you are going to be rewarded by taking the corner on. The safe play off the tee though is to play something between 180 to 220 yards, as this will clear the first set of bunkers and leave you short of the other fairway bunker that's to the left of the fairway at the turn. To get past the turn though, you're going to have to try and get past that fairway bunker, and that's going to be over 240 yards, and this will be to a really narrow fairway. For your approach to the green though, the green is significantly elevated from the fairway, so you will need to play at least the yardage to the back of the green or take at least one more club to allow for that elevation change. All the misses to this green will leave a very tough up and down, so accuracy for yardage and distance is going to be really important here. The green itself slopes from back to front, and ideally you will leave yourself an uphill putt towards the pin, so you can expect some movement here, especially if you are having to put across the green. Hole 3, and a slightly longer par 4 here, and this is actually a really challenging tee shot. You are playing from an elevated tee box, so a good opportunity here just to try and get down the fairway as far as possible. However, this is a really narrow beginning to the hole, and it will require an accurate tee shot, and all you've got to see is the bunker that's in the distance, so you can either try to take that bunker on or you can leave it slightly short of that bunker. This will leave roughly around 190 yards to the middle of the green, so ideally you will need to cover at least 230 yards to get past the bunkers in the fairway. For your approach to the green, I would recommend playing no more than the yardage to the middle of the green. Anything missed long here will fall down the back, and it is a yellow stake drainage channel at the back which your ball will inevitably fall in. Playing to the middle of the green will also help you to find the widest part of the green and give you the most room for error too. There's also 2 bunkers either side of the front of the green. The green again generally slopes from back to front, so only expect a bit of movement if you are having to make putts across the green, and you would ideally leave yourself an uphill putt, so you may wish to factor in where the pin is for your yardage. Hole 4, and a relatively short par 3. Even though this is stroke index 18, this is actually still quite a tough par 3. The difficulty here comes that there is no room for error to miss this green. 3 bunkers protecting the front and the left of the green. There's a wall at the back, and they have a fairway that slopes away from the green as well. I would recommend just playing for the middle of the green. The green is slightly higher than the tee box, so if anything, just add a few more yardages to the shot that you're willing to play to the middle of the green. This is quite a long green, but not a particularly wide green as well, so accuracy here is going to be really important to minimising the amount of shots here. The green generally slopes down from back to front, so don't expect too much movement here, especially from most angles around this green, and this is another hole that you are going to want to leave yourself an uphill putt towards the flag. Hole 5, and a relatively short par 5, but one that you certainly won't be able to reach in 2. This is because of the dogleg to the left, and you have really little chance in actually getting past the turn here. So the safest play here is actually just to try and get towards the bunker that you see in the distance and aim to the left hand side of that bunker. This will come at no more than about 220 yards off the tee, so just try to get to the left of that bunker and then just try to set yourself up for the shot afterwards. For the next shot, again, you're just going to want to think about the yardage that you have to the middle of the green and then play backwards from there. Ideally, you would leave yourself somewhere around the 100-yard mark, as this will leave you short of the end of the fairway and also give you enough room to get past the tree that's at the end. You will be playing to a raised green, so you may want to add a few more yardages onto the green, and the green slopes from front to back, but it does have quite a significant runoff area to the right hand side of this green. So again, don't expect too much movement unless you are having to putt from that front right of this green. Hole 6, and another relatively short par 3 here. Whilst the tee shot itself isn't the difficult part of this hole, the green is what is going to make the difficulty here, and you will easily come off with a bogey if you're not careful. Off the tee though, I would recommend just playing for the middle of the green for both yardage and distance, as this will allow you to miss the 3 bunkers that protect the front of this green, and there is actually quite a bit of space either side. Anything too far left though will be out of bounds. And this green does have quite a significant slope down towards the front left of this green as you approach it, so you can expect plenty of movement from most angles around this green. And again, this is certainly another hole that you're going to want to leave yourself with an uphill putt. Trying to put down here, you like putting on glass, so it will make this hole considerably more difficult with a downhill putt. Hole 7, and a good length par 4 here, and this will play entirely downhill from the tee box. Off the tee though, you will be at advantage the further down the fairway you get, as the hole does have a slight turn to the left, especially for that second half of the fairway. Missing left here really isn't an option, and it is out of bounds all the way down the left hand side. So the best just to aim for the middle of the fairway, and if you are one of the longer hitters, then you can afford to hug that left hand side and just try and get down as far as you can. The approach to the green though will be slightly elevated from the green, but probably not going to factor in too much of a yardage change here. I would recommend just playing the yardage to the middle of the green and aiming for the middle of the green as well. This green slopes generally down towards the right of this green, especially as you approach it, and there is a slight slope down towards the front too. You can expect plenty of movement from most angles to this green, especially if you are having to put from the edges of this green. Hole 8, and a long par 4 here, but this does play downhill from the tee box. Off the tee you have two options, but the second option is a very high risk option. The safe option here is just to lay up short of the first fairway bunker that you see in the left hand side of the fairway. This will need no more than about 240 yards off the tee. This is a narrow fairway and it has very little forgiveness either side of the fairway. So play whatever you feel is going to be the best shot to get you in the fairway. The second option here is actually just to try and get clear of that bunker. The fairway does open out slightly, but it will open out more towards the left hand side. For the approach to the green, I would recommend playing for the heart of the green if anything, favouring the yardage to the back of the green, just to try and avoid the majority of the trouble. There's 3 bunkers, 2 short left and 1 short right. You also have plenty of space out towards the back left of this green, so if anything, that's your miss. The green slopes gently down towards the front of the green, but I wouldn't expect too much movement here. This is quite a big green, so pace control is going to be essential here for minimising the amount of putts. Hole 9, and another long par 4 here, and this is actually a really good risk and reward hole. For the longer hitter, I would aim to take on the fairway bunker that is down the right hand side. You're going to need at least 210 yards to get clear of this. You will need to play something less than about 280 yards, as this will help to avoid the channel that cuts across the fairway. Again, this is quite a narrow fairway, so accuracy is going to be really important here. Anything to the right of this hole will likely be lost, as it is out of bounds all the way down the right hand side. For your approach to the green, I would recommend playing this to the front of the green, or if the pin is at the back, then play towards the back of the green. However, you cannot afford to miss long or right on this hole. There's 2 bunkers either side of the fairway that sit about sort of 15-20 yards in front of the green, and 1 bunker to the right of the green. I would aim towards the middle of the green, as there is bushes either side and, as I mentioned, trouble down that right hand side. You will ideally leave yourself an uphill putt on this green, as putting downhill will be super tough and will likely run away from you. The green slopes down towards the front of the green, and with the front portion of the green having more of a significant slope. Expect some movement, especially if you are having to put across this green, and pace control again is going to be essential here, especially if putting downhill. Hole 10, and another long par 4 here. The main aim off the tee is just to try and get past the fairway bunker down the left hand side. This will need to be about 200 yards to get clear. This will also help to find the widest part of the fairway. The fairway narrows in the further you get down the fairway, so playing something between 200 to 240 yards off the tee will be an ideal position for you to then take your next shot towards the green. For your approach to the green, I would aim for the heart of the green. There's quite a bit of trouble around this green, so it will need to be an accurate shot. There are 2 bunkers short right and 1 bunker short left. There's also a channel that runs down the left hand side of this green, so your miss here is actually long and right. Play the yardage to at least the middle of the green, if not towards the back of the green, depending where the pin is. On the green itself, the green gently slopes down towards the front of the green, but again, don't expect too much movement here, especially from most angles around this green. Hole 11, and a good risk and reward hole here for this mid-length par 4. The main aim of the tee is just to get yourself into play and give you the best possible lie for your second shot. For the longer hitters, you will aim to try and get past the fairway bunker that you see in the right rough, so aim towards the left of the bunker and just try to get yourself down the fairway as far as possible. For your approach to the green, this is a very tough shot. There is no room for error here. There's water at the front, and also all the way down the left hand side, and there's also a path that runs around most sides of the green. Aim for the heart of the green again and just try to avoid all of the trouble around this green. The green slopes significantly down towards the front of the green, so you can expect plenty of movement from most angles around this green. Again, ideally you're going to want to leave yourself an uphill putt depending where the pin is, but again, just try and find the heart of the green and just try to minimise the damage here. Hole 12, and another good risk and reward hole here. There is a 90-degree dogleg to the right on this hole, and this is quite a long par 4. Off the tee though, you will need to aim for the bunker that you see in the distance and play no more than about 270 yards off the tee. Ideally you will make the turn and you will need at least 210 yards to get clear of the trees for your approach to the green. This is quite a narrow fairway, so ideally you will just get past the turn before it opens out. I wouldn't recommend trying to take the corner on, and this is just mainly due to the height of the trees, and it is going to have to be quite a well hit shot to get over those trees. For your approach to the green though, I would recommend just playing the yardage to at least the middle of the green. This will help you get clear of the 2 bunkers protecting the front of this green. If you are playing over 200 yards or you're blocked out by the trees, I would simply just lay up short and then try and get up and down from there. The green itself is quite long and slopes down towards the front of the green. Again, you're probably not going to find too much movement. Even when putting across the green, you won't see too much movement here. Hole 13, and a really challenging par 3 here. At just over 170 yards, this hole does play downhill from tee to green. This isn't the difficult part. The difficulty here is actually the green. This is a 2-tiered green with a good few feet between the 2 tiers, making this actually a really tough green to read and judge. Almost irrespective of where the pin is, I would still recommend just playing towards the front of the green. There is 1 bunker short right and 1 bunker short left, and the 1 bunker that's on the right is a good 15 yards in front of the green, so you do have a bit more room for error here. I would recommend playing the yardage to the front of the green and aiming for in the middle of the 2 bunkers. If the pin is at the back, this still won't be a good pin to try and go at. There's quite a significant runoff area towards the back of this green, so leaving everything short and then putting up the hill is going to be much better than trying to get up and down from behind the green. To add to the 2 tiers, there are a number of undulations to this green, so expect plenty of movement around this green, especially if you are having to put across the green and down the tiers. Hole 14, a challenging and long par 4 here, and off the tee you'll want to try and get to as close to the left hand side of the fairway as possible. The fairway runs out at about 230 yards, so anything between 160 to 230 yards will be the perfect shot to get yourself past the turn. After this point, the hole does dogleg to the left for your approach to the green. You are playing to a raised green here, so if you aren't able to reach the green in 2, then a sensible layout will be something short of the 2 bunkers at the front of the fairway. Aiming to leave yourself no more than about 40 yards to the middle of the green. If you can reach the green in 2, then I would recommend just playing the yardage to the back of the green, as this will factor in the elevation change. This is stroke index 1, so don't feel like it's necessary to try and reach the green in 2, as most golfers you will have at least 1 more shot here. There are plenty of space around this green to miss as well, which may help with club selection. The green itself is shaped like an upturned down saucer with more of a slope down towards the left hand side of the green. There is also a gentle slope down towards the front of the green too. So again, expect some movement if you are having to put from the edges of this green and from sort of around the sort of bottom end of this green. Hole 15, and a good risk and reward hole here, and off the tee you have 2 options. You can either aim to play towards the fairway bunkers and just trying to get yourself beyond the road that is cutting across the fairway, or you can try and get past the first set of bunkers, and this will require a really accurate tee shot at over 230 yards. The sensible option here is just to play no more than about 210 yards, as this will help to aim to hit the widest part of the fairway. This should leave you roughly 160 yards into the green. For your approach to the green though, you will need to get clear of the 2 bunkers that are protecting the front of the green. So I would recommend just playing at least the yardage to the middle and aiming for the middle of the green too. There is a bit of room for error around this green, especially to that right hand side. So if anything, play long and right and give yourself the best option to try and reach the green. The green itself slopes generally down towards the front of the green, but only expect some movements here if you are putting across the green. Hole 16, and a reasonable length par 4 here. However, you are playing to a very narrow fairway. You have thick trees lining both sides of the fairway, so the main aim here is just to get yourself into play. For the longer hitters, if you want to try and get past the trees on the left hand side, you're going to need at least 250 yards to get clear. Aim for the bunker that you see in the distance and just pick the club that's going to get you into play. For your approach shot, you will ideally play for the heart of the green. There's 2 bunkers short, and with thick trees and bushes pretty much all the way around this green, you have very little room for error. If unsure, just lay up short of the bunkers and then just try and get up and down from there. This is also stroke index 5, so most likely you have at least one shot here. This green slopes gently down towards the front of the green, so I wouldn't expect too much movement here, even when putting across here. Hole 17, and a short par 3 here, but this will play slightly more yards due to the elevation change that the green is slightly elevated from the tee box. With 3 bunkers, 2 down the right hand side and 1 short left of this green, you will ideally need to play at least the yardage to the middle of the green, if not towards the back of the green. This green is slightly hidden by the trees down the left hand side, so you will ideally just aim for the bunker that is in the left hand side and just try and find yourself into the middle of the green. There are a number of runoff areas around this green, but do be careful not to miss this green too much, as this will leave a really tough up and down. The green is you almost play through a bit of a valley, with that lower part of the green being the middle, running from front to back. This green does gently slope down towards the front of the green too, so again you can expect a bit of movement, especially if you are having to put across the green. And finally, hole 18, and a par 5 to finish off with. This is another tee box that is raised from the fairway with a really tight gap playing through the trees. The main aim here is just to get yourself into play, but you do actually have quite a bit more space than it would appear from the tee box. I would recommend just laying up short of the bunker that you see in the distance, so playing a club that's no more than about 220 yards will allow for that elevation change and also leave you short of that first bunker. You cannot afford to miss right at any point down this hole, so just be really mindful and always favour that left hand side if possible. For the next shot, you will need to just think about the yardage that you want into the green and then lay up to there. The fairway will run out at about 30 yards short of this green, so anything short of that will be really great on this hole. For your approach to the green though, you will be playing to a green that is slightly lower from your position in the fairway, so playing the yardage no more than probably the middle of the green will again just allow for that elevation change. Favouring that left hand side again trying to avoid that right hand side. There were 2 bunkers short left of this green, and the green does have a few undulations but does generally slope down towards the front right of this green. So you can expect some movements, especially if you are having to put from the outer edges of this green, and ideally you would leave yourself an uphill putt into this pin.